1965. A tiny island gets kicked out of a country. The Prime Minister goes on live television and cries because everyone knows what's about to happen. This island is going to die. No oil, no farmland, not even enough water to drink. Just a swamp, and 5 million people with nowhere to go. But here's what happens instead. 50 years later, that island is richer than almost every country on Earth. Richer than the nation that kicked them out. Richer than most of Europe. How? How does a worthless swamp become one of the wealthiest places on the planet? The answer changes everything you think you know about power. Look at Singapore. It's a dot on the map, barely visible. 140 square miles. You could drive across it in under an hour. No mountains, no rivers, just humid jungle and mosquito-infested swamps. The only thing Singapore has? Location. It sits at the entrance to the Strait of Malacca, the narrow waterway between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. Every ship traveling between Europe and Asia passes through here. For centuries. That made Singapore important. But importance doesn't feed people. And in 1965, Singapore has nothing else. So how does it survive? Rewind to 1819. The British arrive. They see a fishing village, swamps, malaria. But they also see that location. They build a port, a refueling station, a trading post. For over a century, Singapore is just a stopover, a place ships pass through. Then World War II hits. The Japanese invade. Occupation is brutal. When the war ends, the British return. But the world has changed. Colonies are dying. Nations are demanding independence. Singapore doesn't know what it wants to be. 1963. Singapore merges with Malaysia. It seems logical. They share a region. They share trade. The merger lasts 2 years. Then it explodes. Race riots, street violence, people dying. Malaysia's government makes a decision. Kick Singapore out, not gradually, just out. August 9th, 1965. Singapore becomes independent, against its will, and everyone knows what that means. Lee Kuan Yew goes on television. He's Singapore's prime minister, the man who wanted the merger. Now he has to tell his people they've been abandoned. He tries to speak. His voice cracks. He cries. On live television, because the math is simple. Singapore imports water from Malaysia. If Malaysia turns off the tap, Singapore dies. The entire nation depends on a neighbor that just kicked them out. Lee Kuan Yew knows what happens to small, weak nations with nothing. They vanish. Singapore has two choices: die slowly or try something impossible. But what? First problem. Singapore needs money, but it has nothing to sell. No oil, no minerals, no farmland, just an outdated port. Other ports in the region are bigger, better. Why would anyone choose Singapore? Lee Kuan Yew realizes something. If you can't compete on what you have, compete on speed. So they rebuild the port completely. Modernize everything, automate it. Make it the fastest port in Asia. Ships that waited days to unload, now it takes hours. Suddenly, every shipping company wants Singapore. Because time is money. The port starts making profit. But it's not enough. Second problem, Singapore has no military. 500 soldiers with old rifles. Indonesia to the south, Malaysia to the north. Both have armies. If anyone invades, Singapore loses in a day. Lee Kuan Yew can't build an army. No money, no space, no people. So he does something smarter. He makes Singapore too valuable to destroy. Here's the plan. Invite foreign companies, offer low taxes, guarantee zero corruption, promise absolute stability. Western corporations are scared of Asia. Too unstable, too corrupt. Singapore offers the opposite. Harsh laws, no corruption, total order. Companies flood in. Electronics, pharmaceuticals, manufacturing. But then something unexpected happens. Singapore starts refining oil. Wait, Singapore has no oil. Exactly. But it sits between oil producers and oil consumers. So Singapore builds refineries, imports crude oil, refines it, exports it, makes money from oil it doesn't own. The foreign companies bring jobs, technology, investment. Now, Singapore isn't just a port. It's a manufacturing hub, but there's still a massive problem. Third problem. The people are divided. Chinese, Malay, Indian, multiple languages, different religions. Race riots are tearing the island apart. Lee Kuan Yew knows a divided nation can't survive, so he forces unity. English becomes mandatory. Everyone learns it. Public housing is mixed. Chinese families next to Malay families next to Indian families. No choice. Laws become strict, extremely strict. No corruption, no crime, no dissent. Critics call it dictatorship. Lee Kuan Yew doesn't care. His goal isn't freedom, it's survival. And survival requires order, but order has a price. Fourth problem. Singapore has no resources, so it creates one: people. The government floods money into education. Best teachers, best schools, math, science, engineering. Singapore's students start ranking top in the world. Then Lee Kuan Yew goes further. He sends the smartest students abroad, to MIT, Cambridge, Stanford, free, full scholarships. One condition: come back, and they do. They return as engineers, economists, scientists. They build Singapore's future. Singapore doesn't mine resources. It mines talent, and it's working. By the 1980s, something impossible is happening. Singapore's economy is exploding. The port is the busiest on Earth. Factories are everywhere. Money is pouring in. But here's the twist. Singapore still has nothing, still imports water, still has no resources. So how is it getting rich? Because Singapore figured out the game. Wealth isn't about what you own. It's about what passes through you. Singapore doesn't produce oil. It refines it. Doesn't grow food. It trades it. Doesn't invent technology. It manufactures it. Singapore becomes the middleman, and the middleman always gets paid. But at what cost? That strict order? It never ends. Chewing gum banned, littering fined, vandalism gets you caned, press freedom limited, opposition silenced, critics sued into bankruptcy. Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore isn't democratic. It's technocratic. Rule by efficiency. The people accept a deal, give up freedom, get wealth and stability. Most take it. But the question remains, how long can this last? Today, Singapore is one of the richest countries on Earth. Higher income than America, than Germany, than Japan. Gleaming skyscrapers, spotless streets, world-class everything. A modern miracle. But here's the truth nobody talks about. Singapore is fragile, still imports 90% of food, still buys water from Malaysia, has no military power, no natural resources. If global trade stops, Singapore stops. If shipping routes change, Singapore becomes irrelevant. The entire nation is one massive bet. That globalization continues. That trade keeps flowing. So far, it's paid off. But what happens when the world shifts? Here's why this matters. Singapore proves something terrifying. You don't need resources to be powerful, you just need to control the flow. Old power was about owning things. Oil, gold, land. New power is about controlling access. Singapore doesn't own the oil, it controls the refinery. Doesn't own the goods, it controls the port. Doesn't own the money, it controls the banks. In a connected world, the gatekeeper wins. Think about it. The internet runs through data centers. Control those, control information. Finance runs through banking hubs. Control those, control money. Shipping runs through strategic ports. Control those, control trade. Singapore is the blueprint. But it's also the warning, because Singapore only worked through force. Sacrifice freedom for efficiency. Sacrifice choice for order. And that raises the question everyone's avoiding. Can you be wealthy and free, or do you have to choose? Singapore chose wealth, and it worked. But only because of one man, Lee Kuan Yew. one leader willing to make brutal decisions. He died in 2015, and Singapore is still figuring out what it is without him, a model or a warning. Here's the final paradox. Singapore has everything and nothing, the richest nation that could vanish overnight. The most successful city with no power of its own, the miracle that only works if nothing changes, because Singapore didn't build on solid ground. It built on flows, and flows always redirect. Singapore proved a nation with nothing can become everything. But it also proved everything built on nothing is always one shift from collapse. Wealth isn't permanent. Power isn't permanent. The only constant is change. The winners are the ones who see it coming first. Singapore saw it. The question is, who's next?